In this video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I DM'd this guy on Instagram. Make sure you go check him out. I'm going to link it down in the description. Give him a follow. There's always good hockey conversation on this Instagram page. And I DM'd him asking if I could make a video and just saying if I agree or disagree with the post that he makes. I think it's a very good idea for an Instagram page. You guys should definitely go check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. The 2018 draft class will be remembered as one of the best draft classes in NHL history. I would have to disagree on this just because we really haven't even seen anyone play in the NHL just yet, and there has been a lot of amazing NHL drafts. This one definitely was deep and it's going to produce a lot of good stars in the NHL, but for already going as far as saying it's going to be one of the best in history, I would have to disagree. Brady Tkachuk will have a better career than his brother Matthew. I'm going to agree. I think Brady Tkachuk is going to be an amazing NHL player. A guy who could put up around 80 points. He reminds me a lot of Rick Nash. I think he's a little bit better of a goal scorer than his brother. Definitely has bigger size and is more physical, and I definitely think he has the potential to be the all-around better player. I'm a big fan of Matt Tkachuk, but I definitely think if Brady maxes out his full potential, he really could be one of the best players in the NHL. The Toronto Maple Leafs are the most hated team in the NHL. I think I would disagree because I think that label goes to the Boston Bruins. Toronto, I would say, is top 5, but I don't think they're the most hated team in the NHL. Obviously, if it's a Montreal Canadiens fan or a Boston Bruins fan, you're probably not a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs. They definitely are a pretty hated team, and I'm not really sure why, just because they've been around so long, and sometimes their fan base can be a little bit obnoxious, but I definitely wouldn't go as far as saying they're the most hated team in the NHL. Rickard Rakell is one of the most underrated players in the NHL and is able to put up 80 to 90 points next season. I definitely agree. I agree that he is one of the most underrated players in the NHL, for sure one of the most underrated goal scorers. And next season, I think he can really solidify himself as a superstar and the best player on the Anaheim Ducks. I think this previous season, Ryan Getzlaf, when healthy, still was the best player on this team. But obviously, age is catching up on him, and I definitely think he's going to be ready to hand it over to Rickard Rakell, and we could easily see him break out into a superstar and have a 80 to 90 point season. I'm a huge fan of his game, and he 100% is one of the most underrated players in the NHL, so I would have to agree with this one. Cale Makar will win a Norris trophy in his career. I'm going to disagree just because we haven't even seen him play in the NHL yet, and there is a ton of fantastic young defensemen in the NHL, and it's going to be really hard for a guy to jump into that conversation as a Norris Trophy candidate. You have guys like Provorov, who's going to be in contention for the next 10 years probably, Zach Werenski, obviously Rasmus Dahlin was just drafted, you have Goss Despair, Seth Jones, and obviously still Doughty and Carlson and Hedman and those guys. So I think it is going to be tough for Cale Makar to do that. So just because we haven't really seen anything from him yet at an NHL level, I think I'd have to disagree. Alexander Barkov is a top 5 center and is overlooked because he plays in Florida. I would agree on the overlooked part. I definitely think he's one of the most underrated players in the game, but I don't think he is a top 5 center in the league just yet. But in around 2 to 3 years, I definitely think he could make that jump. But you still have guys like McDavid, Crosby, John Tavares. Obviously, those are just the ones that come to my mind off the top of my head. But I don't know if he's better than all those guys. I would put him probably in the top 10, but I wouldn't go as far as saying he's a top 5 just yet, but he certainly has the potential to be in the next coming seasons. The Anaheim Ducks will miss the playoffs next season, and it will indicate a rebuild. I agree on this because the team is getting up there in age, but they do still have a lot of good young players. Obviously, like we mentioned earlier in the video, Rickard Rakell, they have Andre Cachet, who I think is capable of 35 goals, and then you have Josh Manson, who's one of the most underrated defensemen in the NHL. But Ryan Getzlaf is probably going to take a step back next season, I would assume. And then Ryan Kesler, I don't think he's going to play at all next year, and that could be a really big hit to the team. And I think it is a time where they're just going to take a step back, and other teams in the Pacific Division are going to take a step forward. And I think that is where we're going to see the Anaheim Ducks finally miss out on the playoffs and not be a very good team in the next coming seasons. I'm not sure if it will be a really long rebuild just because they do have a lot of good young talent, but I definitely think the next couple of seasons for Anaheim could be a little bit shaky. Brock Boeser is a top 20 player in the league. I would strongly disagree right now, but he definitely probably could be a top 5 goal scorer, or not top 5, top 20 goal scorer in the league. but right now, not top 20 player in the league. But in 2 to 3 years, I definitely think he will be. Obviously, he only had one solid season under his belt. He didn't play in all 82 games as he was injured, but I'm very excited to see how he's going to play in his second season, coming off that really strong rookie year. Hopefully he stays healthy all next year, and in 2 to 3 years, I definitely think he could solidify himself as a top 20 player in the league. The New York Rangers will make the playoffs next season. I would disagree just because they're kind of in a rebuilding mode. They've bought into this, but I don't think it's going to be a long rebuild because they have guys like Zibanejad, who I'm a huge fan of. I think he's an underrated guy. It seems like I've been saying that about a lot of players in this video, but I certainly think he is underrated. Chris Kreider, obviously you have Brady Shea, Lias Anderson, Philip Hedl, so things are looking up. They do have Nemestikov as well, so I definitely think in 2 to 3 years we will see the Rangers back into playoff contention, but for next season I would have to go with disagree. Rasmus Dahlin will win the Calder Trophy in his rookie season. I definitely think he can. He has the potential to, obviously, but I'm going to go with disagree just because there is so much good young talent coming into the league next season. I think it's going to be one of the best Calder Trophy races we've seen in NHL history. My pick right now, I'm going with Casey Mittelstadt, and then you have guys like Zadina, Svechnikov, Elias Pettersson, like I said, Casey Mittelstadt, Eli Tolvanen, Philip Hedl, just a bunch of guys. I definitely think Rasmus Dahlin, if he comes in and Buffalo makes the playoffs or something, you could make a case that it's because of him, and that would be huge. And if he does put up a good amount of points, he definitely will be in Calder Trophy talks, but I wouldn't go with him winning it, but I still think he'll have a really solid rookie season. And now the last one we're going to do in this video. A team in Canada won't win a Stanley Cup for a long time. I strongly disagree. I think in the next 2 to 3 years we will see a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup. You have Toronto, obviously they just got John Tavares, they have Matthews, and they're going to be a contender coming out of the Eastern Conference for the next probably 10 years because their young players are just absolutely fantastic. Obviously you have Edmonton with McDavid, they're always going to be in contention to make the playoffs. The Flames are getting better. Obviously the Ottawa Senators, Montreal, and Vancouver aren't really in the best position, but Winnipeg is my pick to win the Cup next year. So I definitely think with out of the teams like Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, and Winnipeg especially, I think that would be an amazing Stanley Cup final. With all those teams kind of moving in the right direction, I think we will definitely see a team in Canada win the Stanley Cup in the coming years. I certainly hope so because I've never seen it happen in my lifetime. That's pretty crazy to say, but I definitely think it will happen. Maybe not next season, but in 2 to 3 years, I think it is definitely something that we're going to see happen. So that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope you guys did enjoy this new style. Make sure you let me know your opinions down in the comment section below, and like I said at the beginning, make sure to go give this Instagram page a follow. I'm going to link it down in the description below. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this new style of video. With that being said, make sure you drop a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.